Welcome to 4Q Franchise Wars. I'm Woody, he's Dave, he's Munty, and that's Ronan. Something like
Hello.
Very good. Now, last time we did one of these, there was a lot of internet lag, but I think it gives it quite a nice quaintness. So,
yeah.
this is our first one with Munt, who's down here. So, Mark's going to come and give his virtues on the prequel trilogy. So I thought I'd start things off like I did last time, gents, just sort of the reason why we're here. I'm wearing the T-shirt deliberately because obviously this is the Darth Vader we were all promised. So, yeah, we are here to speak about the prequel trilogy.
The best trilogy.
What?
Stank Wars.
So,
yeah, we can say from the start, really, this is the poorest of stuff, really. It's going to be arguing for what's the worst of the worst.
yeah, I think like we did with Back to the Future and we did with Indy, if we just think about, can you remember how it all started when we'd got the wonderful George Lucas original trilogy, which was great. Can you remember, Mark, I remember you and I watched incessantly that trailer for episode 1. Can you remember that?
Yeah, it's a lesson in how to dupe an audience, that trailer is, because I don't think I've masturbated so much over something that isn't porn. It's just a wonderful piece of art. That trailer just gave everybody goosebumps. And I've downloaded it and watched it over and over and over and over again. And it was creating such a promise. And then it just turned into...
It's embarrassing.
And that was it.
It's embarrassing.
I think I remember we'd been sort of promised that, oh, this is it, this is going to be huge, and it's going to be fantastic. Can't wait. And remember the first time you saw Darth Maul's double-ended lightsaber, and he sort of held it out, and, and there were, you had all the feels, didn't you?
Yeah. I think
it's fairly undeniable that Darth Maul is probably the highlight of most of these trilogies.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to disagree. The highlight of the whole of the trilogy has got to be Palpatine. Especially that line in the trailer, wipe them out. And that was it. That was all we wanted. And he never did. And I just cried a lot.
What your first... Oh, go on. Go on.
The thing that gets me most of all about Phantom Menace is it's the best political thriller George Lucas has ever made. And he did not know what he wanted to do apart from make a political thriller. So if you just look at it as a political thriller, it's a brilliant piece of work because it actually lives up to the name of the Phantom Menace. It works. All the elements are there. Then it was like, oh shit, this is a Star Wars movie, what I'm going to do? So then he throws in some spaceships, throws in Jar Jar, and throws in the double-ended lightsaber, and fucks the rest of it up. But you can't get away from the fact that at the basis of the movie, what it wanted to be was how it all started, and it does work. And I hate to say it, but it is actually all right on that basis. It's when you throw all the other shit at it that makes it shit. Beyond shit.
Ronan, can you remember the first time you saw that trailer and your initial thoughts on Phantom Menace, what you wanted it to be?
I don't remember the trailer, to be honest, but what I do remember is actually going to see the Phantom Menace months before everybody else, because I was on holidays in America with my family at the time. So I got to see it a couple of months before everybody else because that's what happened back then.
That drew you to actually living in America in the end.
Oh man, that's a whole other thing. When I was getting like my visa paperwork together, and like you have to list every time you've been in America, and I'm looking for my passport from when I was 16. I was like, But anyway, I digress. So yeah, the first time I saw the Phantom Menace, and my first real memory of the Phantom Menace was seeing it in Orlando. With my family, dragging my family to it because obviously they couldn't give a flying fuck about Star Wars, and I was like, yeah, and then I was like,
This is going to... Oh, Mum and Dad, this is going to... Oh, crap, I'm so sorry.
See, I couldn't wait. I went to a car boot. I went and bought a really bad cam job and went home and watched it on the telly. And then, I watched it again. And then I watched it again. And it didn't get any better. And then I cried.
Yeah, it's... I mean, I watched it the other night. And, it was... Honestly, I didn't pick up on what you were saying, Mark, about it being like a great political movie. I couldn't stop thinking of it more as a kids' movie because it is so central to it, and because you've got the likes of Jar Jar, and it's very much a toy-selling film. So I kept thinking of it a kids' film more than anything else.
Yeah, but what I was saying was the basis of it is a political thriller, and you see when you watch it again in hindsight that they just wanted to throw other stuff in. So it was a test of special effects at the time, because after doing the Jurassic Park movie, that was what, I can go back and make something nice. So it was a selling platform for Industrial Light and Magic again. And let's just see how many figures we can sell. I mean, you know what? That's what I do. And the biggest piss off that I've got about the Phantom Menace is this figure here, right? That one there, Obi-Wan, right? You know I've got hundreds of these bastards. I set fire to them. I put them on the washing line and send them over the neighbours because I can't sell the fuckers. I've got hundreds. And that's the biggest problem with the Phantom Menace. It turned into an advert for toys. And it worked, and it's great, and it did me well for a good few years. Mm-hmm. But it's just, the more I watch it, the more I think to myself, if they had someone who could sit with George Lucas and say, mate, this is shit, what are you doing? Then that'd have been okay. But the biggest Phantom Menace in reality of it all is a guy called Rick McCallum, who was the producer, right? And he just kept saying, George, that's great, because all he was doing was counting the money that was going to come in. And he's a complete bastard because of him. We have a dire trilogy that could have been something else. And he made sure that George was surrounded by yes men who just said yes, 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 yes. And if you ever look at the special features on any of the three prequel movies and just watch the documentaries, you can see the looks on the people's faces who are working on the movies. They're almost like going, oh, fuck me, this is chronic. You tell him, I ain't telling him, I like my job. And that's when you get the prequel trilogy by surrounding it by yes men.
Don't hold it in. Say what you think.
Oh, well, okay.
Try and get through the shyness. Tell us what you actually think about this.
Mark, what were your first thoughts? Trailer and the film, and then I'll mention my thoughts on the film then.
I'll be realistic here. I haven't watched this since I saw it at the cinema originally. I've owned them now. I've owned them on DVD, and I own them on as a Blu-ray box set of all the first 6 movies. And it's only been over the last couple of days that I decided to actually sit down and rewatch them all again.
Oh, poor you.
My rating of them has actually changed on this rewatch of the last 3 days. I held from like my original cinematic viewing of them. I thought that the second was the worst by a long shot. And then I've watched it over the past couple of days, and I've changed my mind on that very much so. And the Phantom Menace has really snuck right up there for me, for the same reason that Ronan was saying everything, and for almost what Mark was saying as well, really. The Phantom Menace existed because George Lucas got the toy rights back, and he wanted to sell toys and make the money that he thought he was robbed of during the first trilogy. And he made it as a complete... I mean, okay, yeah, they were always meant to be kids' films. They always were meant to be for young kids. But they managed to be so much more than that, the original trilogy. This trilogy, The Phantom Menace, for me, is such a stinker simply because of all the comic moments in it. The double-headed commentator, the Jar Jar Binks debacle, which I didn't think was that bad originally. Then I went back and watched it again. And that's so offensive and crappy. I mean, it's just bad. I always enjoyed the pod racing scene when I was younger and watched it. Now I go back to it, and yeah, that's just for selling a video game. The best scene in it for me is basically the 2-on-1 Jedi Sith fight with Maul. more Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan, and that's probably the only real saving grace for the whole damn thing for me. It's so poorly cast with the actors, like young actors. Natalie Portman's a wonderful actress. I don't know what the hell they were doing in this. I mean, considering that's Keira Knightley as well as a double, with the voice obviously dubbed by the same thing or whatever they've done with Natalie Portman. Suddenly Natalie Portman has a strange lesbian man voice. Well, not she has an unusual voice, shall we say. It's rather deep and disturbing for a 13-year-old girl.
I think I'm a bit like Mark. I was full of hope, so I remember watching the trailer incessantly. It really got me going for it. Then I went to see it, and I sat there going
for it.
and so I went to the cinema. Oh, here we go. Come on, here we go. Really excited, like a kid, like I was with the Back to the Future films we were talking about the other week. And come on, this is going to be awesome. You know, look how I felt. Oh, it's going to be great. We're going to learn what Anakin Skywalker's upbringing. Oh God, what's it going to be like? Oh, it's a little kid. Oh, great. I haven't got a vested interest in it. I'm not really bothered about little kids. But, you know, there's some Jedi stuff. Yoda. Oh, look, C-3PO, and he's not finished yet. R2. Something happened. Come on, something happened. Oh, great. Yoda said something happened. Please, something happened. Oh, there's a pod race coming up. Oh. So whenever I rewatch Phantom Menace, I fast forward through that because it's totally pointless. It's irrelevant. If you snip that section out, it would make no bearing on the whole trilogy. And then I watched, like you said, Martin. So then you've got the bit that we waited for. Let's break out the lightsabers and we're going to have a fight. Now, we'd seen in New Hope and we'd seen in Empire and we'd seen in Jedi. It was, you know, slow, graceful, let's do this. And they kicked ass with the lightsabers and you thought, great, Darth Maul's got double-ended. It was brilliant.
See, that point, best. Well, the
final 15 minutes of the film, really.
No, it's great.
You've got the classic Star Wars ships on ships interacting with the Jedi battle, and the last 15 minutes work. I think
they could have started it there. They could have literally started the film there.
Yeah, I'd have been very happy if they cut out all the kid stuff straight away.
Yeah, I mean, if
I always had a problem with
the we watched it like the other night in terms of, all right, what's actually relevant? Because that's, you know, I said when we were doing the Back to the Future one, I tend to look at things as a whole story arc. So when I look at these in terms of what, I look at the prequel trilogy in terms of what drives the story forward and what's cool. Most of the Phantom Menace does not drive the story forward, nor is it cool. So what are you left with?
What you need the last 20 minutes is about all that you really want from that.
You don't need Anakin as a little kid. No. Just why was he a little kid? It makes no sense.
Why with the Phantom Menace and bringing in Attack of the Clones, you can just about get a movie which should have been Episode 1 by amalgamating Phantom Menace and Episode 2, Attack of the Clones together.
Yeah, but Mark,
you can.
Well, me and Ronan saying the other day the Topher Grace said it.
Yeah, but
that's what it makes.
But the trouble is, Mark, what you fail to mention there is you've got to try and get good bits from Episode 2. And Attack of the Clones is a dreadful film. It is a steaming pile of crap.
I was surprised because I've always considered that the worst of the worst. And then I watched it the other day and I found myself surprisingly enjoying parts of it. It's still crap. I mean, these are the Stank Wars. You know, these three are the Stank Wars straight away. It's the battle of the badness. But 2 was actually better than I remembered it being. I actually quite liked 1 for a while, and now I've come to like 1 less after watching it recently. 2, I hated and thought it was just a boring political thriller. But there are actually more scenes in it than I enjoyed. The whole thing, was it in the arena when all the Jedis come in and stuff? You know, those bits are actually reasonably enjoyable. You know, there's bits in there that are of enjoyment quality. Is it a good film? No. Is it the stinker that I thought it was? No, it wasn't. I was surprised to find it wasn't quite the stinker that I thought it was. George Lucas thinks that it's a love story. That just goes to show how bad George Lucas is at blaming script writing and story writing. Awful. There was no way in hell. It's awful. I mean, just the casting, the chemistry that should exist between them, it just is not there. Hayden Christensen, who I believe has actually done some good performances in recent years with his sort of comeback, is just awful in it. It's just bad. But these seem to be choices. They seem to have wanted him to be this character. It's just, oh.
You know, my biggest problem with the clones is when you look at the original trilogy and the new trilogy, the sequel trilogy, there is, the first one is let's introduce the characters. They didn't do very good with episode 1, we all agree with that. Episode 2 is put those characters in a bad position and create a bridge into episode 3, or your third film. The biggest problem with Attack of the Clones is
10 years after.
There's no story development at all. You could go from Phantom Menace into Revenge of the Sith, and it wouldn't make any difference whatsoever.
I think George Lucas seemed to think that
there's no bridge. There's not putting them in any jeopardy to get out of it come the third instalment. There is no introduction of anything new or a new element that carries on into Revenge of the Sith. It doesn't matter about the clone.
I think what you were saying, Mark, it ties back to what I was saying about kind of what's driving the story forward in terms of the 3 films. And like, as you say, most of it in episode 2 just isn't there. For me, the highlight of episode 2 will always be seeing Yoda play with a lightsaber for the first time.
See,
I remember watching it in the cinema and going,
buckets of shit and eat it up with a straw.
But that for me,
that makes me want to kill myself. I hate it.
And I'm the same. That killed it for me. I sat in the cinema and it was an ordeal. Attack of the Clones. Right, we're gonna have a Clone War. Come on, here we go. Please, God, something happened. You've just sat me through an hour and a half of misery with the first one. I'm up for this now. I saw the trailers. I can see Yoda's gonna have a fight with this Count Dooku guy. It's gonna be brilliant. So I thought, here we go. Jedi's graceful. Yoda doesn't need to. Yoda's a Jedi master. He is absolutely killer. He would just gracefully do that. The lightsaber would go to his hand without him touching it. He probably wouldn't have to touch it. He would just swoosh it around. Dooku was no match for him. They killed the trilogy for me in those fleeting moments. I got all excited. I thought, this is it. Here we go. We're going to have a fight. Something's happening. Dooku's just pushing him off. Here we go. Here we go. Come on, Yoda. Come on. Oh, no. And he flipped around like he was having some sort of a fit. And I sat in the cinema going, why have they done that? Why did they do that?
Why they've done that? Empire Strikes Back. Look when he's training Luke and he's got him in the swamp and everything. And he's got Luke jumping around, flipping around with Yoda on his back. And suddenly, why the hell was Luke flipping around with Yoda on his back? Because that was what Yoda was teaching him. That was Yoda's style of fighting. I never realised it. But that's one of the few things that kind of made sense. Did it look good? Not to me, because everything was matte CGI painting, which was terrible. But it kind of made sense that the flipping around bit, that was Yoda's thing. That's why he made Luke do all that stuff.
What else killed the movie? Boba Fett as a 10-year-old. Jesus Christ. Being a 10-year-old in Phantom Menace, Boba Fett as a 10-year-old kid, and when he's sitting there and in the original slave one ship with his dad, oh God, the old Boba and Django is just.
Let's recast them as New Zealanders. Here we go.
Wasn't it evidence then, though, even in episode 2, that clearly George Lucas was never going to stick the landing with Boba Fett? He didn't know what to do with him. You know, what could he have done? He could have set something up beautifully. We could have seen Boba Fett, come back. It doesn't matter about age. This is Star Wars. He could have been a mean git. They made Django with it. Oh God, it's really is an abomination of a film. Attack of the Clones.
He just stumbled onto his coolest character in the Star Wars saga. He just stumbled onto him by accident. He stumbled onto the 2 coolest characters. Him and Han Solo were both for reasons other than George Lucas. Han Solo was cool because Harrison Ford made him that way, and he improvised some lines and threw it in that just made him a lot better. Boba Fett was cool just because, by accident, just making him the silent, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the Clint Eastwood silent guy, and it just worked like a dream. And the look of him was fantastic. The deciding of George Lucas to expand upon the character was one of his biggest mistakes, full stop. Don't give a backstory to a mysterious character. You rob that character of all of its like joie de vivre straight away.
But yeah, but you can say that about Darth Vader as well. We're after saying that like we don't need to know about Darth Vader as a kid.
Yeah. Oh,
maybe George Lucas's biggest problem is he suffers from too much information.
Well, look, I think what we
one more thing about Attack of the Clones, right? They got rid of Jar Jar. They made him into a background character and took away that comedy element. So what did they do? Look what they did to C-3PO and R2-D2 in the Geonosian fight at the end. Walking around with on a battle droid Z and all that shit. Oh, that made me want to cry. Let's take another. Let's just redo the comedy element and even make it even worse. I hate it.
I think for me, I'd sat through the Phantom Menace and I got through it and I thought last 15 minutes is promised. So I sat there going, right, we are going to see an attack. It's called Attack of the Clones. We've been told about the Clone Wars. This is it. We're going to see this is the start of the Clone Wars. And I sat there waiting for something to happen. And a Clone War doesn't happen until Yoda says, "Begun, this Clone War has." And the film finishes. So why didn't they it was completely pointless. And for me, I think it proved the second film proved George Lucas cannot write dialogue and he cannot get his actors to perform it. Did nobody sit with him? You know, can you imagine him looking into that lens going, okay, guys, and action, and they've done this bit, and, you know, Hayden Christensen does some of the worst dialogue in the world. Martin, it's your favourite, which is, I hate that, and it's coarse and irritating and gets everywhere. So when he did that, why did nobody go, he went, okay, that's in the can, that shot. Why didn't nobody go, are you serious, George? Yeah, he's got that. That's exactly, you're taking the piss. Do it. No, we've got that. Why did nobody do that? What was
because everyone was
everybody was what?
Everyone was just saying yes to him.
Oh, yeah. God,
they wanted to keep their jobs.
Yeah.
It's tortuous.
Mark pointed out before, everyone was saying yes. He didn't get the right people around him.
Yeah.
And then,
that happens everywhere. My God.
And then fast forward a couple of years. So I remember going to see Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and I was excited. I forgave and blindly forgave.
I'll just get ready for this.
I'm gonna stop. I blindly forgave Episode 2. I said, you know what? All right, here we go. We're gonna see this guy. I was waiting for him. Here we go. Come on. We're gonna see. We were promised. He killed all the Jedi. He was gonna bring balance to the Force. Obviously, he's a mean sod. Here we go. I'm gonna see what I've been waiting to see. He is going to be ruthless. He's going to be maniacal. He's going to work with the Emperor. They're going to carve it all up, and you're going to sit there and wanting more. I have never been so disappointed. I've never come out of a film before where I looked at the person I went with, and I just turned, and he was like, "Oh, what do you think of that?" And I said, "That was utter shit." It is an abysmal film from the moment it starts. I didn't get any investment in the characters. I wasn't invested in Hayden Christensen whatsoever. The ridiculous staring into the middle distance. I wanted Padme to die almost immediately. I didn't care. Younglings, all that crap was a nightmare. But the worst thing they did, the unforgivable thing they did was what on earth did they do to the badasses in the whole series? The bad guys. What on earth did they do? So they took the Emperor, who was as he was. Why didn't they just put a cloak on him? No, let's really have fun with the audience. Let's really rub them up the wrong way. So the costume department turned to George and say, right, we're going to have a transformation for the Emperor because it's got to be obvious that he becomes this maniacal guy. What are we going to do with him? What we could do is enlarge his forehead and paint some lines on. Yeah, that sounds good. So when he becomes bad, should we do that? Yeah, that sounds great. Totally ridiculous. The dialogue is appalling. You cannot watch Emperor Palpatine become Palpatine in those few moments when he's fighting with Mace Windu and not retch. Seriously, watch it. Watch his transformation. It makes you want to puke blood. Listen to what he says. It's like someone has taken the piss out of the whole thing and said, look, here we go. Do something. And Ian McDiarmid's gone, oh, it'd be really good if I did this. I've got an idea. Samuel L. Jackson, do something. No. It was like Panto, and they filmed it, and we saw it. And then to finish it off, so I'm going, right, okay, there's going to be a big fight now. He's going to fight with Obi-Wan. This is it. Oh, I'll forgive it all. That's fine. I'll forget about that. He's just thrown Mace Windu out the window. Right, here we go. Oh, here we go. Come on then. Darth Vader, here we go. Do something and something happened. And then he names him and off he goes and he has a fight with Obi-Wan. You think, right, here we go. This is it. And it's because he stands slightly higher on a hill. That's what does it. That's it.
Nothing wrong with the higher ground.
It's woeful. Where was the Purge of the Jedi? And finally, the ultimate humiliation, the ultimate letdown for me, the ultimate get out of jail free card was execute Order 66. Those 3 words for me massacred the whole of the Star Wars story. Those 3 simple words, execute Order 66, murdered it for me. I cannot listen to those words without wanting to stab myself, because there was no Purge of the Jedi. All that happened was stormtroopers went, the aim works on these guns, and they managed to shoot Jedis who just died in the most pathetic way. It was abysmal. It is an appalling film. It's dreadful.
Oh, Dave.
I don't think it's as bad as you say it is. But my problem with episode 3 is it really should have been episode 2.
Yes.
Going back to what I was saying about the formulation of a trilogy, is at the end of episode 3, they got everybody in all this situation. He becomes Darth Vader. There was room for a movie after that to tie things better to A New Hope, instead of trying to ram all the loose ends into the final 5 minutes. And that's where the biggest failing of the old trilogy is, because it isn't a trilogy. It's 2 films spread over 3, where they should have put the time in and made the trilogy properly. But Revenge of the Sith isn't as bad as you think it is, Dave.
It is. It's awful.
It really isn't, Dave. I've got the high ground.
When we watched it,
There's will surrender. I've heard your arguments.
The start of episode 3 is Palpatine. There's no getting away from it. It's a Palpatine movie. Dave hates Palpatine. It's camp acting. It is panto acting. There's no doubt about that. But it is Palpatine's story about the way he manipulates and controls everything. The
3 films.
They squeeze in.
3 films of that shite.
The story of episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, is okay. It's just the way it's acted and put into performance that is a problem. The story is the best story out of the 3 films. It's
I
just,
agree with that.
Just the way it's structured, the way it's put into action is just awful. That's the biggest.
For me, episode 3 has the most action compared to the other 2, and I think that's probably why I can watch Revenge of the Sith by itself without watching the other 2. And before Rogue One came out, I would happily just watch Revenge of the Sith and go straight into New Hope, and I wouldn't miss the other 2. I can easily do that and not be too bothered about it. So I like that it's got more action. I absolutely hear Dave's points, but I don't get as worked up about them. And I think for me, I think pretty much everything Dave has just said, to me, they're just part of the story. And like, badly and all as they were executed, they did move the story forward and move the Skywalker saga forward. So that makes it important, again, in the wider context of things. Does it redeem it completely into making it a good film? No, don't be silly.
No, it gives it lots of action, as you say, lots of action to let you watch it as a one-off on its own. Watching it over the past couple of days, I was surprised. I thought, there's plenty in it. But once again, it's unlike The Phantom Menace, where the last 20 minutes were the best part of the film. in this, the last 20 minutes were the worst part of the film, where really they just rushed Darth Vader, the birth of like the biggest, baddest character in there. Does that make it the worst film? Not by a long shot. It's probably the most watchable one of the prequels straight away for me. I enjoyed it. I'm with Mark. It should have been, though, cut it, say, like, you know, have them put in Vader, then, you know, have them building to make Vader, and have another story after where it's true birth of Vader.
Yeah.
That would be great.
So it could have been the story of him being on the Jedi Purge and hunting the Jedi down, and then having Obi-Wan and going into hiding with the kids. That could have really expanded that if they hadn't made Attack of the Clones. And
Completely.
I like Ronan. I could watch Phantom Menace, watch Revenge of the Sith, miss out Attack of the Clones, and I'll lose nothing from the story.
But what you're
fighting
doing?
the Jedi Masters? Because really, all Darth Vader does, all Anakin does in this, is kill the Jedi kids and kill the Trade Federation. He doesn't actually really fight another Jedi. I was thinking like Mace Windu or something, but no, it's the Emperor that finishes off Mace Windu. Yep. Anakin does his whole hat trick thing and just cuts off another hand, you know, as he likes to every time. Here let's fight somebody. Oh, he's cut off a hand again.
Well, talking of hands, you can't talk about Revenge of the Sith without mentioning General Grievous. They have a figure waiting to be spread out, and I can't give away the buggers either. I mean, that was just an appalling ramming a bad guy for bad guy's sake.
Yeah.
Make him look cool. Give him a load of lightsabers. Start him off with that whole rotating lightsaber thing, which looked fantastic.
Yeah.
And really, oh yeah, he doesn't have the Force. He's just going to get beaten at the end of the day. All he can do is fight with a lightsaber. He has no Force power whatsoever. Of course, he's going to.
If you take away the fact that he got 4 arms and he looked good, if you kept Dooku as Dooku, he could have carried all of Grievous's lines and actions and everything he did. They just wanted to get rid of Dooku and bring another bad guy in to sell more figures, and I hate that.
But
even though I'm an action figure seller, it just annoys the hell out of me.
You three are excusing this. Right.
No, we're just being realistic.
No.
We have the high ground, Anakin.
No, right.
No, we're not trying to polish a turd. We know it's a turd. It's just,
Yes, but
it's just
it's
less,
the third of the bunch.
it's the less shitty of the big bunch.
Yeah.
Think about what we were promised. Think about what they delivered. They took.
We thought about that on the Phantom War.
They took the greatest villain in movie history, and he is not the same thing at all. You know, he is thick. He's got no brain. He's totally and easily. He's so easily manipulated. It is ridiculous. What happened to him between 3 and 4, where he got intelligence? It doesn't make any sense.
You know what he is? How
Kylo
Kylo Ren is he? How
Yeah,
Kylo Ren? He's another emo?
Ren's consistent. Kylo Ren is
Kylo
snivelling
Ren's
and whiny.
And so was Anakin.
Kylo Ren is snivelling and whiny in 7, 8, and 9. Darth Vader is an annoying little kid, a dreadful snivelling adolescent, and a pathetic Grebo knobhead. And then he becomes this Thanos type character in episode 4 and 5 and 6.
Goes with what Mark said, really. Another film.
There's 20 years to get there, and that's the biggest problem I've got with it. They could have covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
2 and 3, and they don't. They basically make a short story and try and spread it as far as they can, and it just doesn't work. And that's the biggest problem. They haven't got he just took his principle of this kid becomes Darth Vader. What's the quickest way I can get it from A to B and get bums on seats, make a load of money, sell loads of special effects, and then sell
your figures.
4 billion in 10 years' time.
You know,
that's all it was.
They couldn't even get, George Lucas couldn't even get the showdown we were all waiting for. So I actually, at one point, I didn't care about Vader versus Obi-Wan. I wasn't bothered. I went, they've murdered that for me now, but they're going to give us the other showdown that gets overlooked. Here we go. It's Palpatine versus Yoda. They are equally matched. So what happens? They're in that Trade Federation bloody Galactic Republic thing, and he's playing, he's spinning and playing frisbee with him. I mean, what is going on? All we wanted to see was some like saber fighting. It's, oh God, it's just diabolical. It's shit.
I've not got a problem with that showdown between Palpatine and Yoda. I prefer that than the Yoda and Dooku. It's okay, it's cartoon-like because that's just like we want to throw special effects around. Yeah. But it was a little bit more realistic going when you look at things like Empire Strikes Back and Vader's throwing all the stuff at Luke and Luke's trying to hit it off. If you've got two people who can imagine to start throwing stuff at each other, that is probably how they're going to react with each other and it looks like a big show fest. I haven't got an issue with Yoda versus Palpatine. I think it's palpable.
Palpable.
No, I think the scene with Mace Windu and Palpatine annoyed me more, and yeah. I think what annoyed me about it was how easily the other Jedis that were with Mace Windu put down like that.
That one guy turning away from it, the first guy, like looking away.
If you watch that, there is a bit. If you watch it closely, I've paused it. And you see one of the Jedi look at his lightsaber and go, "What's this?" And then it's carved up. That's how bad it is. The real scene that sticks under my craw, not just the no, and we'll talk about Darth Vader's big no in a minute. When he anoints Darth Vader as Darth Vader, what were they thinking? Okay, what were they thinking when Palpatine turns and puts on the worst panto performance that's ever been put to screen and goes, "Henceforth, you will be known as Darth." And then they have a pause, almost like somebody forgot to cut those bits out. And it feels like forever. It feels like an eternity before he makes the word Vader up. Just absorb it. These are meant to be maniacal, crazy, intelligent, articulate, wonderful sentient beings. He wouldn't have done that. Sniveling, pathetic.
Well, consider it's a guy who'd planned for decades, and then suddenly his name, there's no reason for it, just suddenly snatched out the air, Darth Vader. He'd been planning, plotting, forcing Anakin Skywalker, moulding him as he went along, doing it for years, under the nose of the Jedis, working hand in hand with the Jedis. It could have done with a little more explanation, but that still doesn't make it the worst film by a long shot for me. There's still more in that film that's enjoyable to watch. It's, once again, as I say, last 20 minutes of Phantom Menace is fantastic. Last 20 minutes of Revenge of the Sith is not. Mix them up, cut them together, add another film afterwards where Darth Vader actually becomes Lord Vader. That would have been fantastic.
The story is palatable, but it's the execution that makes it hard to swallow, and that's the biggest problem with Revenge of the Sith.
The final case for the prosecution. Yeah, and
there's one thing we've all missed, and we haven't even talked about: midichlorians.
Virgin birth.
I think that's it. I think you've started and ended the discussion of midichlorians before. That's enough.
The final case for the prosecution is that scene that Martin just did. So here we go then. So you forgive all that. You forgive the terrible acting, all that. So now he's got the helmet on. He's this guy here. This is it. I've been waiting to see this. We have waited so long. Look what he becomes in Rogue One and New Hope. What's he going to say? What are the first things he's going to say? He is going to speak. Don't say it. What about Padme? Is she all right? I'm sorry, what you did. No! No. It killed it.
Oh.
It killed it. Irredeemable.
New to the man.
Irredeemable. And those key points there that I've just talked about is what murdered Revenge of the Sith. I remember watching him, this is a guy who can choke people with his thoughts and throw people around and do all these things. and he snapped the buckles on his on his things and said, "No!" This was my reaction in the cinema, and I'll never forget it. When he did that, I just stared blankly at the floor and thought, "This is an absolute travesty. It's appalling." Just
It's
that scene for me.
build up as well, where the helmet is slowly coming on, and it all comes together, and he raises up,
I know.
and then he speaks.
You were
It reminds me of the time I ever read Beckham speak, because you look at the one, and then you hear the voice. and then they did that with Vader.
I am the best footballer in the world, but I speak like this.
Can you imagine being James Earl Jones, and he got the script come through, and it was James, are you keen on? Yeah, I'll do this. How much are you going to pay me? And he got the script and said, I think your kid or one of your grandchildren's written out something from a comic. Can you send me the script? No, that's what I want you to say.
Dave, do you actually want to know something?
What?
He didn't actually do it. Hayden Christensen did it.
That makes sense.
It's 100% true. That is, they manipulated his voice. So he said that was Hayden Christensen in the suit doing the lines.
And you know what? That makes sense. And actually, that sort of is the final nail in the coffin. What more do you say than somebody didn't agree to appear? They didn't want to say those words. That is abysmal.
Did he not agree to appear, or did they just make a choice to make it?
I thought he was uncredited.
They do use him. It's one of them mix of this and a mix of that. But it's Hayden Christensen who's going no.
I thought James Earl Jones was uncredited, and that's the only saving grace. The fact that at least he must have thought it was a parody or a cartoon or something.
Yeah.
It killed it for me. And then they shoehorn in everybody sort of going, "Oh, you'll be in Tatooine and whatever."
Oh,
It killed it for me.
I will say, one of the redeeming features for me of Revenge of the Sith was that, like, Padme and Anakin had less screen time together, and I think, as we saw in Attack of the Clones, you know, I think Marco mentioned it earlier on. There was no chemistry between those two actors, so I think keeping them mostly apart in the third film was actually, I think that was a good saving grace.
Yeah, that was a wise choice straight away. Wise choice.
I think the other saving grace.
It's possible they had negative chemistry. They made each other worse when they appeared together. And Natalie Portman's a fantastic actress, but somehow she was made worse by appearing with Hayden Christensen. Smart move, separate them as much as possible.
The one person I feel sorry for throughout the entire trilogy, and he's the saving grace in a lot of aspects, is Ewan doing Alec Guinness impression, because he ain't that bad. I mean,
No, it's better than it's ever made.
He has some shit to say, but at least he makes it believable compared to all the other actors who've got shit to say.
Well, fingers crossed with this series that hopefully they are going to do the Obi-Wan series, bring him back for it, and that'll give him some redemption, because without a great big bag of crap around him, he'll have a chance to actually, especially if they go down Mandalorian-style routes, it could be a great show. It could be great.
I mean, this is a big shame, really, for Ewan McGregor, because everybody hates on the prequels. Everybody moans about all the stuff we've been moaning about, but he is the big positive thing, I think, throughout the three films. He is in the background a lot in Phantom Menace, but when it comes to Revenge of the Sith and Attack of the Clones, he does a good job with the shit he's been dealt.
Oh, his action stuff's wonderful. When he drops down in the middle of General Grievous and all the robot guys, the guy's just cool. You know, he just comes across, he's just pulling off his best James Bond sort of thing there. It's a lot of fun.
Apart from the Bruce Lee, that makes me
I know Jedi Fu.
No.
Yeah.
not even Ewan McGregor gets away with it. Listen to some of the crap that he says in Revenge of the Sith. It is a dreadful.
You just hate this film so badly. It
killed younglings
that are actually good.
Well, I think the problem with Dave is that, as he said, he forgave them after Phantom Menace and was hurt again with Attack of the Clones. He forgave them after Attack of the Clones and was hurt again with Revenge of the Sith. So
Yeah.
you're just too forgiving. And I think that your hatred for Revenge of the Sith, it's just the culmination of it all. It all just like
But
rolled over into this massive ball of rage.
It's the third girlfriend. You know, she gets all the crap of the first two, all the stuff that you've absorbed and forgiven. Then the last one, you know what? Fuck it, straight away. I hate you now.
but it's Star Wars. You know, I was a kid. I was brought up with it. I got an older brother who was obsessed with Empire Strikes Back and said that's the best film. You've got to see that. So I wanted darkness.
Right.
I loved it. You know, I've been and bought this Rise of Skywalker in the popular Blu-ray format that was out this week. There we go. But
that's your own fault.
I needed it. I needed Revenge of the Sith to get me through what I'd just been through. And
we have got a generation that were our age when the prequel trilogy came out, and they watched that first. They don't hate it like we hate it.
Yeah.
If you have people who watch it in order, they don't have the issues that we have, because we have got high expectations. We've got rose-tinted glasses on, and you can't get away from the fact that if we hadn't have had 3, 4, 5, and 6 to hold so dear and grow up with everything else, would we be hating so much on this prequel trilogy?
That's it. We probably enjoy it a lot more.
And if you look at what's happened with filmmaking in the last 20 years since The Phantom Menace came out, and they have produced movies and they've produced sequels and they've produced franchises, there's become an element of complacency and expectancy that they can feed shit to us and we will still go and watch it. That is the biggest thing that's come out of the prequel trilogy for me, is that our expectation level over the past 20 years of what movies are going to be like have dropped so much that the storytelling and character development is becoming lower because the expectations are lesser, because most of millennials are all dumb fucks or watch any old shit you throw at them. So they're happy.
It's an abuse of the fandom, really. That's kind of what it is. They know that we'll take less, so they put less effort in, and we accept less, and that's it. And they just tell you, well, you should accept it because they're made for being younger kids' films. Why are you still watching them? I mean, that's going to be the thing, really, with the sequels afterwards. It's sort of, you know, as soon as they throw anything different at you, it's like, well, why are you still watching them? These films are basically telling you to bugger off.
I mean, look, it's not all bad. You know, when studios get it right, you have the Marvel MC universe. When studios believe their own crap and think anybody will buy it, you get the prequel trilogy and you get the Twilight movies. There's no difference for me between the Twilight films and Revenge of the Sith. They are on par. The dreadful acting,
that's what I was saying. The quality control has dropped, and it's because of the prequel trilogies that has happened. It's now gone. It's gone from we've got to make the best we can possibly make and make the best possible story we can possibly do, or can we churn this out to be good enough to get bums on seats?
Yeah, will people accept this?
Yeah, I mean, you've just got to look at Justice League. And I know a lot of people think we're DC haters, but you look at Justice League, you look at Superman versus Batman. We can do something, we can knock it out, but is it good enough? And no, it's not, but we'll do it anyway. And I think the prequel trilogy's got a lot to answer for what a lot of the crap we get thrown at us today.
Yeah, it's lowering of expectations and what can we get away with. And it should never be that, because they pay a lot of people a lot of money to write and make these films, and they spent a lot of money on special effects, probably too much money because there was too much going on CGI wise. It just, the films were spoiled, but there's still moments of enjoyment in all of them.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Are they good films? No, not really. Are they enjoyable? In places, yes. Do they have things wrong with them? Most definitely. But my recent rewatch made me think, yeah, there is stuff that makes me watch these and think, yes, and I hadn't watched them since watching them at the cinema in the first place.
You can't get away from
that rewatch made me want to edit them.
all three of them, you look at them and they're a spectacle. They look amazing. The special effects are just wonderful. It's spaceships, it's robots, it's lasers, it's
battles on a huge scale.
and you can't get away from the fact that that is good. And if you just look at the first one again, and you look at the Naboo Royal starship, and it's flying around, and the reflections on the ship, we couldn't even get that when we watched Return of the Jedi, and that looks fantastic. And that is, you can't get away, you can wank away with the sound off to all three of them, and you can still enjoy yourself.
No, you couldn't. and I think
And that's what he does.
the final insult, right? So we had that, and I bought the DVDs, and I've got the Blu-ray box set like you've got, Martin.
Yeah.
He even that arsehole from California even ruined Return of the Jedi, because she was sat there going, all right, they've digitally restored this now, we're going to watch Return of the Jedi. I remember I got my kids and said, here we go, Return of the Jedi. And Luke Skywalker has just set fire to his dad on Darth Vader's funeral. And he looks across to see Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda. And then, who the hell is that? Why did they do that? Why did they shoehorn Hayden Christensen?
Old man.
Not only why did they shoehorn him in, what pisses me off more than anything else, and what a lot of people don't pick up on, he's looking in a totally different direction to everybody else. So you go back and have a screenshot, right? You've got old Ben and you've got Yoda looking straight at Luke. Then Hayden comes along and he's looking in the opposite direction. So God knows where he was eyeing up. Probably
to be fair, it does.
It's weird.
It does work, because Luke does sort of go, huh? Because he would go, who the fuck's that? Dad? I always
for black.
Dad. It's one of those when Lucasfilm was sold. I remember the Twitter head. Lucasfilm sold to Disney. There will be new Star Wars films. I must have been one of the very few people who went, oh, really? Please make them better than that.
Yeah, I think that it wasn't only you. There was a lot of cautious people out there, Dave.
But I think for me, when Disney bought Lucasfilm, I kind of looked at what they did with the Marvel films, and I know there was the same reservations when Disney bought Marvel, and all the Marvel films were fine. So I was like, you know what? Disney have shown they can actually pick up somebody else's franchise and actually do something good with it. So
yeah, but the one thing with Disney they didn't learn is you don't make prequels. I mean, just look at Solo. You just leave it alone. I mean, I know a lot of people say Rogue One's a prequel, but it's a sort.
It's a prequel. I mean, by the fact that it links to Star Wars,
it's not a prequel in the same sense as the prequel trilogy and Solo is. It's just like
let's focus on
get
different
the story
characters
that we already know and try and stretch it out. At least they actually did something with Rogue One, and that does piss me off. Just even the mention of Solo makes me vomit more than it makes.
Let's save these for another video, because there will be the Star Wars spin-offs video as well as trilogies.
So now what the four of us have to do is rank the prequel trilogy.
I mean, we've got to fight it, basically.
In order of best out of the prequel trilogy to the worst, or as I like to call it, the best and episode 3. So I'll kick off really simple. It goes Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clowns, and purely by default, because there are only 3 and it can't go any lower, is Revenge of the Sith. That is my order. That's it.
I've done a recent rewatch, so I'll quite happily kick in with my ranking of them. And my ranking, as I say, changed over for years. I ranked Attack of the Clones as the worst film. On the recent rewatch, I've had a big change around in it, and I would actually go in best to worst on the Stank Wars. I would go, the best is Revenge of the Sith, the second is Attack of the Clones, and the worst is The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, +1, I'm exactly same as Martin. Revenge of the Sith, Attack of the Clones, and Phantom Menace. And I mean, that's, like, even before my recent rewatch, I kind of, just in terms of, again, I think of them in terms of story and how they drive the story forward. So for me, that was always going to be Revenge of the Sith. In that sense, I know you guys completely disagree, but I do love the seeing Yoda with a lightsaber in Attack of the Clones, so that wins it for me. And then the Phantom Menace, there's, you know, again, apart from Darth Maul and his introduction and that fight scene, it's a great scene, but it doesn't drive the story forward. It's pretty much anonymous, so we don't exactly need it. So yeah, 3, 2, 1 for me.
For me, it's top one is going to be Revenge of the Sith. Purely because the story has got a story. It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end.
But it's shit.
It's executed.
But he's right. We have the high ground, Dave.
It's executed story.
It's not as bad as you think it is.
Second place for me is Phantom Menace. It beats Attack of the Clones purely on the fact that it's, again, story. It has got the beginning, the middle, of the end. It is a political thriller. A lot of you don't see that, but I see that it all the way through. And Attack of the Clones has no story, gives nothing to the trilogy as a whole, so it's a big pile of wank. So that's
See, now I'd say that Attack of the Clones is the political thriller.
Yeah.
Phantom Menace didn't even know Phantom Menace was a child's film, unfortunately.
Oh, it was. I didn't say it wasn't a child's film. I'm just saying,
Good
for me, it just beats Attack of the Clones. But Attack of the Clones is just, I can go from 1 to 3 and lose nothing, and that's the biggest problem I've got with Attack of the Clones. It brings nothing to the story and carries nothing over apart from this love interest. But right at the very beginning of Revenge of the Sith, you know they've got together. But I'd completely redo all 3 anyway, and I'd cut out the first hour of Phantom Menace, take the last 15-20 minutes of Attack of the Clones and do a little bit of a segue into Revenge of the Sith and make Revenge of the Sith episode 2, and I'd have done a 3rd movie, which was what we didn't get. But we didn't, but that's life.
Let me explain why all of you are wrong.
Please.
Now, you
explain why you're insane, Dave.
You have the story. We know the story, right? I get that. The film is shit. That's the problem. Stop defending terrible films. It's
our
awful.
argument is that all of them are actually pretty much that, but the 3rd is actually the best of them. You've just built up your hatred over 1 and 2 and unleashed it on 3.
Yeah.
I haven't. They're all pretty poor when you watch them. But look at 3. You cannot defend stuff like that. Emperor Palpatine. I mean, even JJ, when he's made Rise of Skywalker, got Palpatine back, and Ian McDiarmid must have sat there and gone, "Oh, do you want me to do a lot of this?" And he's gone, "Whoa, can you dumb it down a shade, mate? Just, you know, ease off on the naff." It's woeful. It really is. It's a dreadful film, Revenge of the Sith. It has no redeeming features.
You've had 3 abusive boyfriends and only really hate the last one. They're all worthy of hate, my friend.
I can't begin to tell you how much I hate that film, how bad it is.
Yeah.
And actually, it wasn't because
I think you have started though.
It wasn't because you know, my expectations were managed. I wanted so much for it. I forgave what happened before. It's just so awful. It really is, guys. It's an abomination.
There is nothing in Revenge of the Sith that's as bad as watching Anakin ride on the back of a beast in a field and then roll around really badly with Padme, and they smile at each other. And I'm just thinking, I've come to watch a Star Wars film. What is this shit? And I'm just going,
It was awful.
It's
coarse and irritating and gets everywhere.
It's painful to watch. Attack of the Clones is, and you're just sitting there, and I just can't help but think, what did he actually want to achieve with Attack of the Clones? And I can't actually see anything that he did want to achieve. There's nothing.
See, whereas I found the arena Jedi versus droids and all that battle more entertaining than a lot of the parts in Phantom Menace. Phantom Menace, I was kind of watching thinking, what are they trying to achieve with this? They've got a little video game plug in there, and then they've got a good 20 minutes at the end with a cracking Sith guy that they never really made another one that looked that cool.
Yeah.
I know the fight's a bit super choreographed and everything, but it still looked pretty good for that last 20 minutes. But apart from that, what were they doing with the rest of the film? What story was it trying to tell? All it was doing was cramming in bits of stuff. Phantom Attack of the Clones, tedious as it was at times, did actually have things going on in it, and a couple of fantastic battles and some decent scenes. It had that annoying love story in it. George Lucas does not know how to write a love story at all, and that was awful. But it tried to do something. It tried to tell a story. It should have done more to develop the idea of Darth Vader in there. But for me, it was still worth a little bit more than the Phantom Menace.
I've got no problem with the way it looks, and I think it looks great, and the special effects are wonderful, but the story elements are just so weak. But they're not only weak, I don't think they actually give anything to the trilogy as a whole. So I've said it several times now, you take out the Attack of the Clones story elements and you lose nothing to the trilogy at all. There's nothing there. Bringing Django into it and having that's created one of the clones, who really gives a shit? It makes no difference. There's no payoff in Revenge of the Sith. Anything to do with Django whatsoever. The Trade Federation, the Geonosian colony, all that going on. There's no payoff.
The insult to Asian culture.
No, the only payoff you get from Attack of the Clones is the Death Star plans, which is then retconned with Rogue One anyway. So it's a pointless. That's what I mean. It's a pointless exercise. There is no payoff element in Attack of the Clones, which is given any credit or any conclusion in Revenge of the Sith at all. There's nothing there, and that's what irritates me about Attack of the Clones, and that's what makes it the bottom of the pile. Which really, I don't know whether if any of you have seen the Clone Wars cartoons, but the stories that they tell between episode 2 and 3, leading into 3, that story is way better than Attack of the Clones. So you could actually
they always
do the Clone Wars cartoon series and then do Revenge of the Sith.
That's it. They said they were trying to actually tell more of the Darth Vader corruption story during those, which more of us haven't got the chance to see them.
It's like Dave Filoni actually agrees with me and thinks, shit, I want to rewrite Attack of the Clones. I can't actually do it, but I'll do the story properly in this series.
Yeah.
But if we're ranking these, which we are, that's the whole point of the 4Q franchise wars, is ranking them as a prequel trilogy. I think we've got 3 of us then saying that Revenge of the Sith is the best out of them.
Yeah.
And one saying that it's the worst. So I'd say that Revenge of the Sith is ranked as the top film then on there, just on a voting purpose.
Yeah.
Then second place then, it's currently, what's Dave voted? I think it's tied at 2 for Attack of the Clones, 2 for Revenge of the Sith, or...
I said Phantom
2 for
Menace.
Attack of the Clones, 2 for Phantom Menace. So that's the battle. And then it's last place. Which one's it going to be? Is it going to be... Really, we've got the top film. Let's argue for the bottom film then. And then whatever's in the middle is whatever's in the middle.
Let me tell you what else I hate about Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, that's over and done with now. That's rank number 1.
Yeah, we're moving on. We're moving on.
You're looking for our second place, and I've still got to argue for the Phantom Menace for second place. Purely from the fact that it introduces the characters, tells us who they are. Anakin's at the wrong age, admittedly. They could have had him being 15, 16. He could have been Hayden Christian from the beginning. Having him as a 10-year-old boy makes no difference. But at least it establishes who he is, where he's from, how he comes to meet Obi-Wan, how he gets brought into the Jedi Order. We've got Palpatine in the background, who's slowly manipulating everything. We know that. They don't know that. That story element works. It's a bit slow-paced, but that story element is working its way through. And then we have a nice little crescendo at the end with a nice battle scene, which is classic Star Wars. That's what beats it for Attack of the Clones for me. That's why I think it deserves second place.
I think it's got 20 good minutes at the end, and the rest of it stinks like a turd on a hot day. It's got Jar Jar goddamn Binks as a main character, leading. What's I say, Anakin? Okay, take you underwater. Let's introduce you to the Oompa Loompa people.
The Gungans.
Think on that like you wouldn't believe. I just think that Attack of the Clones, on my recent rewatch, Attack of the Clones had always been my worst one of the trilogy. I always considered it boring, a failed political thriller. Watching it recently, it was unfortunately Phantom Menace that overtook it there because of the unfortunate failed attempts at constant humour that just never worked all the way through. As you say, be it like C-3PO's head on stuff, just everything in there that just failure after failure after failure. The terrible two-headed guys commentating on the pod racing is just awful. The fact that it is supposed to be aimed at young people, but how many young kids really enjoyed that? I don't know. Phantom Menace goes bottom for me now, and as I say, for years it had been Attack of the Clones. It's only a recent rewatch where I thought, actually, Attack of the Clones does give you a little bit more. It develops a little bit more. It has a little bit more maturity to it. It gives you a bit more action that's actually quality. But as I'll always say, that last 20 minutes of Phantom Menace was great, and that made me stay on for watching other stuff as well.
So we've got one vote for Phantom Menace, one vote for Attack of the Clones. Down to you, Dave.
In the fact that you've all got what in the number one place wrong anyway, purely and simply, Phantom Menace was a long, laborious snorefest. The pod race was just horrendous. Just delete that, remove that. But you had got 15, 20 minutes at the end, which felt very Star Wars and wasn't OTT. What killed Attack of the Clones is a bit like what butchered Revenge of the Sith. Is they had some great ideas, some great stuff, and then the execution was absolutely horrendous. And for me, what puts Attack of the Clones behind Phantom Menace is they ruined Yoda. They made him CGI when they could have kept him as a puppet. We never mentioned that. And then what they did with Yoda and his fight scene with Dooku just tipped me over that this has got silly now. And then they repeated the garbage in episode 3. So yeah, it goes. I would say Phantom Menace marginally beats off Attack of the Clones.
That's 2 for Phantom Menace, 1 for Attack of the Clones. What do you think, Ronan?
Can I just say, I particularly enjoyed Dave mentioning that the Phantom Menace beats off Attack of the Clones. That shit's funny. Maybe he's making midichlorians. Let's see if a little Jedi on that.
Yeah, for me, the Phantom Menace is definitely the worst because, again, there's just none of it feels that essential. And I mean, even that great fight scene at the end, which I agree is a great fight scene and feels like Star Wars, but what does it do to progress the overall Star Wars story, the overall Skywalker saga? Fuck all. Like, actually, fuck all. I don't think it does anything. It shows...
And they kill off the one cool character that they actually brought in. They just used it for about... They let him make him a stalker for most of the film, just hanging around in the shadows, just in the background, then bring him into his big scene and kill him off straight away. Okay, he's not killed off, as we found out later on, but he's not in the movies anymore until so. So the one thing they did do on there was that about 15, 20 minutes, and then they killed the guy straight away. The coolest thing that they've done. Yeah,
and I think that for me, like, the reason Attack of the Clones is better is because it has more action, and that's what I wanted. That's why one of the reasons that the Phantom Menace was such a struggle was that it was so low on action. As you know, a few of you have said, it was kind of trying to like cram in comedic value. I've been thinking back, trying to work out it being a great political thriller, as Marcus said, and I just cannot see it. I think you have to.
The one that was supposed to be in that.
I think you have to see the political thriller in the Phantom Menace. I think you have to firstly dig very, very deep Secondly, imagine it anyway. So, I just don't see it. I just see it as a stupid, like 2+ hour toy ad. And I just, yeah, I can't forgive that. I think Attack of the Clones picked up in that, yes, it had more action. Yes, it had the god awful chemistry free romance between Padme and Anakin. That dragged it. But you know, in between their rolling in the meadow, you had some, you know, fight scenes where they're good fight scenes, not necessarily stretch, but you know, fight scenes nonetheless, and that's what I want from a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, that gladiator sort of, you know, arena fights. It's not bad. You know,
yeah, I thought it was cool. They could have picked up there.
It also gave us
that's my best critique of it. It's not bad.
Dexter in the 1950s diner. What's a 1950s diner doing in Star Wars?
Well, you mean the New York diner in Star Wars? Yeah. Didn't George Lucas do that kind of thing, full stop, all the way through? Just keep adding that sort of thing. That's what works in the Mandalorian when they bring Bill Burr in.
I just hate Attack of the Clones. I can't. It's just the one thing that makes me vomit. It just does not work for me at all. Even the opening bit where they're trying to protect Padme and they do all that stupid flying around Coruscant. It looks great, but the dialogue and the acting, and you just think, oh, this is like fan movie shit. That's the kind of quality of it. Don't know. But
I actually liked the assassination plot at the start of Attack of the Clones, but I think the chase scene that was part of that, I think that dragged out far too long. But I actually, as a concept, I actually liked that idea. And that's
the first time I ever wanted death sticks. And I would have happily taken them both up each nose.
So I'm withdrawing my. But so you're saying Revenge of the Sith, Attack of the Clones. Is that what you're going for, Mart?
Yeah. I've genuinely changed my mind over my rewatch over the last couple of days. I've always put Attack of the Clones at the bottom of the pile. I found it tedious, boring, but I haven't watched it for years and years and years. I think not since the cinema. I've owned it on DVD. I've owned it on Blu-ray. I went back recently over the past couple of days knowing this was coming up, watched them all again, and I was surprised to find myself thinking, actually, Attack of the Clones is better than Phantom Menace. Phantom Menace lost me at the poor humor all the way through, the poor attempt at stuff, and just, as you say, for about an hour and a half or something, just being not worthwhile watching at all. It was just, what is the point of this? It gives me 20 minutes at the end, which are kind of wonderful, but it gives 3/4 of that film are just don't even need to be there at all.
Well, Martin and Ronan agree on a 3-2-1. Me and Dave disagree, but differently. So Martin and Ronan get the winning hand, I think. So that's it, 3-2-1.
Yeah, they've gone Ted Rogers. Yeah, they've gone Ted Rogers. I, on the other hand, think you're all wrong. And Revenge of the... I would happily watch the Caravan of Courage films, the Ewok films. I would happily watch Star Wars, the Holiday Special. I would watch any of those over episode 3. I thought it was.
Lovely.
I would watch that weird woman stir, quick stir, than watch that again. It's just horrendous. Revenge of the Sith. So we've successfully negotiated and agreed on a ranking. I'm sure anybody that watches this is going to have their opinions and say, oh, David's wrong because, it's so angsty and, it's such a good film. Well, they're all wrong and they're all wankers.
I mean, to be fair, that most people will say you're wrong because you are. You know.
Except I'm not.
I have the high ground now, Dave. You may as well give in.
So I think on that note, we need to execute Order 66 on this recording. And... we can continue and say our farewells as we finish. But thank you, Martin, for organising this.
Well, Dave, I mean, realistically, you've sent out all the invites and are recording this. I just came up with the idea with this stuff, you know. Let's have a laugh.
And great to see you again, Ronan. And
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me.
And the Munt. Nice to have you put your thing in.
Munt.
Don't forget, give it about middle of June and visit www.uk to get all
Loose
your
action figure man.
prequel and original 3 and sequel. And also Marvel there as well, so there's plenty of them. So go on there and have a look, and you'll like it. Next time I'm on, I'm going to have a nice big plaque in front of me all the way through, I think.
You need to create a green screen on a computer, Mark, and you can have Toy Nostalgia Man as your background.
And let's face it, he'll probably be doing a deal on those Obi-Wan Phantom Menace figures as well.
That's correct. I will be paying you to have them off me.
Yeah, he'll give us $5 each to take them away.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.